another scintillating episode of the Not So Daily Days podcast, the show that speaks its piece on geeky trends, lost nostalgia, and the wayward ups, downs, and sideways declines of our pop cultural world. And today we are at long last going to discuss a huge release in that cross-cultural universe, the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So, the Mario Galaxy movie. Before we delve into spoiler territory, allow me to give my quick overall sentiment. The film, in short, is fun. Funny, vibrant, and energetic, and in one or two cases, even touching. I recommend it to fans of the Mario games and of that greater galaxy of Nintendo franchises. And, with all of that said, it's also true that the movie, despite what I just said, has some problems. Some small, some odd, some pretty large. But before we break the cinematic spectacle into its most critical points, let's first discuss that genre known as the video game film. Movies based on video games are almost always a tough drain to plumb due to the sketchy rules games tend to use. You know, like platforms that float inexplicably in midair without explanation. Or the one-man armies toting unlimited weight and firepower, as defined by the likes of Doom and Contra. Games historically have always favored the surreal over the real. No justifications or rationales necessary. And often they didn't even provide much of a story to grant that action some semblance of credence. This is because in them good old days, games were meant to be, well, games. Experiences or activities to be won or lost. A game with a so-called storyline was really just a game with a premise, a contest built around a core objective or mechanic. Pac-Man's plot was one of dodging ghosts and eating dots. Mario, or Jumpman as he was first known, was tasked with saving a kidnapped girl from a goofy ape. A few years later, the mustachioed hero's plot would be reproduced with a slight boost, this time trading the mortal Pauline for the goddess-like Princess Peach, an ape for a much scarier dragon-like monster. And, at least where Mario is concerned, not much has really changed since. As late as Super Mario Odyssey, Bowser was still nabbing a relatively helpless Princess Peach, and Mario was still chasing after her, perpetually and pretty much internally. So, maybe not surprisingly, the first Mario movie was also pretty light on plot. Though Mario was saving his distressed brother this time, Peach be too empowered and girl boss for that, the basic story beats were essentially the same. Mario arrives in the Mushroom Kingdom, Mario must stop Bowser, and ultimately, Mario becomes the hero of the Mushroom People. Indeed, Mario's story, if reduced to a tagline or two, is one where the everyman becomes exceptional, becomes the champion, the plumber now super enough to complement his plucky princess. Which brings us to the sequel, the Super Mario Galaxy movie. With Mario and Luigi now established as characters, there's even less material to explore as an overall similar plot unfolds. This time, Princess Rosalina needs to be rescued, which means Mario and friends must enter into another new realm. Not a Mushroom Kingdom this time, but a galaxy even more surreal and bizarre, to save her. And yes, Bad Boy Bowser, along with his maniacal son, must be thwarted yet again. It's a straightforward formula without much space for subplot or nuance, and those that exist are barely explored. Peach's mysterious past is given more attention, but the plot thread is a hair that's barely there, amongst the constant action. Rosalina herself is a promising new character, but serves mainly as the movie's cinematic and climactic bookends. Most significant, maybe, is the growing affection between Mario and his princess. The spark of love, or at least a deepening affection, does seem to be blossoming between the two. But it's a long, smoldering fuse. A light space, but not the key ingredient. The Mario movie is, in essence, a long sequence of clippable scenes, a bevy of cartoon shorts stitched together just well enough to nudge its splattered pitter-patter of a plot forward. Taken individually, these scenes are great fun. Mario and Luigi battling Bowser Jr., for instance, is a kinetic flash of well-choreographed action. The micro-Bowser interactions with Mario are hilarious. The introduction of Super Mario 2 Big Bad Guy Wart, along with the battle that follows, is flush with energy and flourish. And the dungeon-crawling obstacle course Mario and Peach must navigate at the film's crammed finale is a satisfying homage to the 8 and 16-bit greats that once defined the plumber's existence. But these scenes feel more like their own individual micro-episodes. They add up to tell a rudimentary story, but they don't quite gel and seg together as they would in a more organically told narrative. They're more akin to a collage of plot points that are struck and pounded versus being elegantly woven and gently spoken. Put another way, one could divide the Mario Galaxy movie into a series of YouTube shorts of about 5 minutes apiece. And that's because, more than telling a story, these scenes are merely reenacting one, each segment like a stage from the Super Mario games. These levels don't so much tell a tale as they provide the excuse, the battleground and playground, for all that running and jumping. These stages might connect to suggest a greater narrative, but all they really do is steamroll viewers into a haphazard, high-strung conclusion. The Super Mario Galaxy movie, for better or worse, plays by the same rules, stays true to its gaming roots. It takes and distills the simplistic sensibilities of the classic old-school titles, offering viewers a bright, spastic, elastic, thrilling regurgitation of the game's many aesthetic and actiony themes. But by keeping the experience thin and straightforward, like a stage in Super Mario World or Odyssey even, anyone hoping for some real character development or a richer plot are in for a disappointment. Shigeru Miyamoto, the fabled creator of Mario, he actually had a lot of people helping him, once claimed that story wasn't important in the video games he made. And apparently, it's not all that important for the films he helps make, either. So, again, my overall sentiment of the movie is just as I said before. It's fast and action-packed and flush with nostalgia and easy fun, which, for most viewers, will probably be enough. But it must be repeated, this movie is simple even by the standards of the first film. It makes the Sonic the Hedgehog movies look like a series of deep character studies, by comparison. Beyond that macro analysis, however, I have some smaller, more acute observations I'd like to now address. Indeed, the movie makes a lot of weird decisions regarding its characters, relationships, and histories. Plenty of spoilers are ahead, but if you don't mind, let's proceed. So yeah, Rosalina makes her debut. You know, before Princess Daisy, before Wario. I mean, heck, even characters like Fox McCloud make the cut before, say, Professor Egad or Waluigi do. I'm not saying these characters should have been in the movie, but it is weird to see Rosalina and the galaxy at large explored before Mario has even ventured to, say, New Donk City, Dinosaur Land, or even Sarasa Land where Daisy could have been more properly introduced. And speaking of Princess Daisy, she's introduced at the end by punching out the little monkey guy. Is this to suggest she's the tough princess? Because Peach is pretty much already kick butt in this movie, and the last one really. And even Princess Rosalina, she's practically a goddess with her destructive powers. At least in the games, there's some kind of delineation between the princess's respective fiery to sweet temperaments, with Peach and Rosalina being more on the serene and Daisy a bit more on the feisty side of things. Here, in this movie, I can't really discern the differences. They're all pretty headstrong, independent, powerful, with maybe a touch of sweetness here or there, happy to stomp, if not outright crack, a few heads in between the smiles and laughter. They're all kind of the same. And continuing with the princess line of talk, what makes them all princesses in the first place? Peach is an honorary princess, I guess, but what does Rosalina rule exactly, at least according to the movie? Considering that both Peach and Rosalina are essentially the products of Stardust, they're more like goddesses than mere members of royalty. The fact that they are sisters is also peculiar now that Daisy has entered the equation. Is she composed of Stardust too? Another long-lost sister? For such simple games and movies, the sister component is actually getting pretty complicated. I suspect that after Mario Movie 3, we can expect these overpowered sisters to receive a movie of their own, too. And then there's Bowser, who just feels off in this film. He starts strong, offering some hilarious banter with Mario while a wee 3 inches high. He also seems to be on the verge of reforming, forming a growing rapport with the brothers and even admitting that maybe he wasn't such a great father with his son, as if seeking some level of forgiveness or at least understanding. I really thought that with all these clues, Bowser would probably help an overwhelmed Mario by the film's conclusion, becoming more the plumber's rival than outright arch-nemesis. But that's not what happens. After taking Mario's place as a prisoner of the bee people, the turtle dragon gets abducted by Bowser Jr., where he is whereby reindoctrinated into his own evil ways. So much so, in fact, he literally tries to incinerate both Mario and Peach at the film's denouement. Isn't this the guy who still pines for the love of his sweet princess? Yet here he's trying to roast them both without a flicker of doubt or hesitation. It's almost as if there was a script change halfway through where someone, maybe Miyamoto, decided to keep Bowser as black as ever. But after experiencing a nicer Bowser for the first third of the film, it seems like a contradiction in terms, an odd misdirection that neither feels earned nor deserved. And going back to my earlier thesis that the movie is more a loosely interconnected series of mini episodes, there are a lot of events that just feel like they exist because they're fun, but not because they make a whole lot of sense. For example, Mario and Luigi get turned into babies because Bowser Jr. blasts them with a super scope that can apparently do that? It's bizarre even by the rules of the Mario games, but the writers clearly felt that an homage to the Yoshi's Island games where this sort of thing kinda sorta happens was needed. Other scenes are similarly weird. From Mario and Luigi shooting through a desert on motorcycles because why not, I guess. to Fox McCloud's somewhat inexplicable presence. He's cool, I guess, but if Fox is there, why not, I don't know, Samus Aran, and why not Link, and why not, I don't know, how about the F-Zero crew? They're space-like and fast and have rocket-like ships, and when's enough is guess what I'm saying. You gave the Kongs you made the Kongs the Mario Kart inventors of the first movie. I mean, everything just seems so random, so happenstance. So why not try this? What do we got to lose? We don't have to have a cohesive narrative, just scenes and jokes and gags and ideas all thrown on the screen all at once. A story and a movie that's supposed to be about a plumber fighting a turtle dragon. I just don't know why all this other stuff keeps coming in. It's just kind of bizarre, but alright. Bowser Jr. is good, but rather sinister compared to his persona in the games. First introduced in Super Mario Sunshine, in which he nabbed Mama Peach, as he was inclined to call her, he was more mischief maker than sinister mastermind. But here, he's more nihilistic than even his dad, a regular terrorist with a Death Star's worth of firepower at his disposal. How are fans of the game supposed to receive this character who, really, barely resembles his gaming counterpart? On a more positive note, the movie gets both Yoshi and Toad right, allowing them both to be true members of the team. I do think Toad gets a little short-shrifted at the end, where he stays with Fox McCloud in his ship and is basically forgotten, as is the Fox, for that matter. But up until that point, at least, the little Toad was given plenty to do, and I like that. I suppose I should mention the power-ups, although it's nice to see Mario and Luigi actually use the fire flowers this time. They didn't do that in the last movie. Many of the new powers they wield feel forced and come a bit late. Toad gets the penguin suit, but is barely shown using it. And during that final fight scene with Bowser, Mario and Luigi use the drill and cloud power-ups respectively. The problem is that these powers are almost random, incidental. Clearly they're just to evoke the Galaxy game from where they originate. Because let's be honest, the Galaxy as we knew it from the two Galaxy games isn't really portrayed here all that faithfully or consistently. It all feels very slipshod and scattershot, and I believe power-ups, like the drill, were just thrown in there at the end to remind us, oh yeah, that's right, this is the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And finally, Wart. When I saw him on the movie posters, I got excited, I admit it. Maybe he's the true villain, I thought. Maybe Mario and Bowser would have to team up to take the new big bad down. But no. Wart and his henchmen really only get one good scene, serving essentially as the fodder for a once again invincible, can do no wrong Princess Peach. He's effective for while he lasts, serving almost like the Mario movie's version of Star Wars' Jabba the Hutt. But oh how I wanted more. And finally, the Galaxy theme itself seems forced to kind of reiterate a point I made earlier. Much of the wonder taken from the Galaxy video games is absent here, and limited mainly oddly to Princess Peach when she first arrives in this whole new realm. By the time Mario meets her there, most of the gravity wonders and wonderment and fantastic events and perspective flourishes and all of that have already been depicted. Mario, in a sense, is sidelined from the movie's titular title and gimmick. The writers seem to have noticed this too, cramming in those odd power-ups at odd times, especially at the end. And speaking of that ending, it's more of a tribute and homage to the original Super Mario Bros., right down to the bridge that Mario hacks down with an axe, versus offering anything that would have been noticeable or notable to the two Mario Galaxy games. It just all lends to the movie having a kind of a hodgepodge sort of feel. Not a true Galaxy film, but more of a smattering of everything else, all of the above. A test where you skip the first three options and go with D, all the above, everything included. The movie is inspired, sort of, but it lacks a cohesive vision. Like, why is Wart there? He's the villain of Subcon, not Galaxy. And why is the queen bee, who was in Galaxy, apparently living on the planet that has the Mushroom Kingdom, living terrestrially? This is a movie that feels broken into parts and then stitched back together. Inspired scenes, but not an inspired, cohesive narrative overall. And that's its true failing. The movie simply fails to capture the pure wonderment of those two Galaxy games. Half the movie isn't even set in the so-called galaxy or whatever that realm really is supposed to be, and when they're in the galaxy, half the time they're with Fox McCloud in his R-Wing, so there's that. What I think I'm saying is that the Mario Galaxy movie is a better hodgepodge of multiple different Mario games than a proper homage to the actual Galaxy games as we know them, Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2. Put simply, the movie is really just a string of funny plot ideas stripped from the many Mario games, versus the script really being written first and then trying to incorporate some of those ideas where they would make sense. And that is my last observation and my review of the Mario Galaxy movie. And what awaits Mario in the future? Daisy, apparently. If Mario is closing in on Peach in this movie, one expects Daisy to be Luigi's infatuation for Part 3. Beyond that, it's hard to say. Does Bowser get his body back? Does he begin to reform as he seemed to be doing in the first half of Part 2? Will Wart be the new big baddie? Will Wario finally make his long-delayed debut? And now that Fox McCloud has shown himself, will more guest stars be inevitable? Will that big Smash Brothers style event be closer than we think? My guess is that, obviously, a third Mario movie is inevitable. Will show up probably in 3 years from now, and after that, we'll have DK and maybe even a princess spin-off film featuring the three damsels, right? You got Peach, you got Daisy, you got Rosalina, probably kicking butt in their own way in their own film. After all of that, and after maybe a Zelda movie or so, we might just get that big epic Smash Brothers style crossover film that would be a joy to see, even if the plot for that cluster of a film will probably be even more weird and bizarre and maddening and nonsensical than even these Mario movies have been. The bigger question, however, is whether Nintendo will allow outside characters to also partake in that fun. Sonic the Hedgehog, Pac-Man, Mega Man. That would be something to behold. And with all of that said, thanks for listening. If you like this sort of content, please feel free to drop by my website, lostnostalgia.com. That's lostnostalgia.com. It's chock full of similar content as you heard in this podcast. There are more podcasts on that website. There are plenty of articles and features and pictures involving everything old and nostalgic, retro and wistful. So, again, if you're bored, if you're inclined, go check it out. Until next time then, this is Mr. Pacario signing off for now.